And here we are, another episode of Under Pressure. I'm your host, Carmine Gellinella, and this is going to be a different type of episode for me because it's like I know so much about my guest because not only are you one of the top names when it comes to mixology, Nick, and everything that comes with bartending, you work at Lucky Shuck, but you happen to be my best friend in the entire world. Nick Lanier, thank you so much for being part of Under Pressure. How does it feel, dude? You've officially made it.
Finally, it feels great, Braj. Thanks for having me.
You're the first guest I haven't had to pay.
Ah, sweet. See, that's what friends are for.
Well, Nick, I always open it up to my guests for them to tell everybody else a little bit about themselves. So now the floor is yours, Braj.
Yeah, I'm Nick Lanier. I'm a Palm Beach Gardens native, born and raised. Been under pressure my whole life. You know, I think it's a good fit here. Aside from playing sports as a kid, which is always a high pressure situation, I've been in restaurants since I was 15, which is also a high pressure situation. So I think it's very apropos that the name of your podcast is Under Pressure, and I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so you work at Lucky Shuck, right? What is your exact title?
So I like to call myself the director of fun, but that's self-titled. I'm the assistant general manager, the bar manager, the booze guy, if you will. So he who controls the booze controls the fun.
I love that. And I actually never asked you this question. Whatever geared you towards bartending? I feel like we just all one time were in the hospitality industry, but there was never a moment where you're like, hey, I think I want to be a bartender.
You know what's funny? I don't think you have ever asked me that, and it's really simple. When I was a kid, I loved the show Cheers. I loved the show Cheers. I've always thought that was one of the funniest shows. And it's actually why I wanted to work at restaurants. And I remember I was 15 years old. I was a two-sport athlete. I wrestled and I played football. And I wanted to go to the movie theater Abaco. You remember the one that was by your folks' old place?
I'm trying to think when I moved down here, I think they got rid of it because I never went to that movie theater.
Right
I just missed it.
Yeah. So that's where all the kids hung out in middle school. And I remember I asked my dad for $20 and he's like, yeah, here's $20. Get a job. I'm like, what? I'm like, I played two sports. He's like, you want money, you need a job. So 15 years old. I went, it was Scotty B's Draft House at the time, the original Duffy's. It's now Pirates Well. And my friend Brianna Raw worked there. We went to school together since like second grade. Her stepfather, Scott Bender, was a bartender at Duffy's. And then when Duffy's sold out and got big, they ended up selling that location. And they sold it to Scott, who was their bartender. And he opened Scotty B's Draft House. And I started washing dishes and bussing tables, man. It was a rude awakening. It was a good job for a kid. It's humbling, you know, washing dishes. And funny thing is, I was talking recently, and it seems like any time that I've heard of like successful restaurateurs, every single one of them, their first job was washing dishes.
Yeah.
Believe that?
They start from the bottom.
Yeah.
I have a couple people I've had on the podcast, like Kyle Green from Kyle G's. He started as a dishwasher.
That was a great episode.
Thank you so much, man. Yeah. This is going to be a great episode as well. And then it just went from there to just progressing, and then you're behind the bar and you're like, well, wait a second.
Yeah, so I worked.
I like this a lot.
I worked at Bust, and then, you know, you can't serve alcohol in the state of Florida till you're 18, so then I became a server. And then I left. Actually, I think I worked at Scotty B's at the same time, but I went to Cafe Chardonnay, did some fine dining, which was also very tough. But when I was there, I learned to bartend. So their bar back was also like a service bartender. So he'd work the well and make drinks for the servers. And that's where I started. And then I left there, went back to Scotty B's full time. And I remember at the time, one of the bartenders had called out. And the manager was like, hey, can anyone bartend? And I was like, I can. And they just like threw me back there, and I was slinging rum and cokes and just kind of, you know, started doing a little bit. And then when it became Pirates Well and I worked for Larry, I really started bartending.
That's so wild to me that was an original Duffy's, and Duffy's didn't keep it. You would think like an establishment like Duffy's and how they're all over the place, their flagship store or restaurant would still have been a Duffy's.
Yeah, and it's a cool spot.
Oh, I love it. And then
like
once it became the Pirates Well, dude, I lived there.
I know.
I freaking lived there. That's when I was first starting in radio. So we had crazy hours. It's like I used to go to work when you guys would come back.
Yeah.
I remember I would just sit at home sometimes and be like, yo, when you guys getting home?
We'd hit checkers.
You and our other buddy, one of our other best friends, Pascal Pudge.
Shout out.
He was like, I don't know, maybe like 2 a.m. I'm like, yo, can I get my food order in now? So you guys would just bring me wings and like a buffalo wrap before I go to work. And that was, I mean, we could talk all day about the like, Braj Mahal and Pirates Well.
Dang, man.
I might lose the podcast if we get into too many details.
We lived, 5 minutes?
Yeah, 5 minutes.
It was
from the
great.
world.
And honestly, that was some of the most fun I've ever had in my life was living with you two guys. And like, I would literally wake up, go to the gym, go to college, go to work all night, wake up, go to the gym, go to college, go to work. Then weekends was just
It was 3 dudes, 2 dogs, and just constant fun.
Yeah,
You say you're the director of fun right now.
Yeah.
You learned from those early years
Yes, we did.
in the Barrage Mahal. And for those of you that don't know why we would call it the Barrage Mahal or why I refer to Nick as my Barrage, it's because of Workaholics. Huge fans of Workaholics.
Yes,
we consumed so many of those episodes. We just sit down and get lost in episodes of Workaholics. But so how's it been at Lucky Shuck? I mean, one of the best places you can go. It is one of the most beautiful restaurants. All of the restaurants right there on Love Street that are owned by your company, sir, is just incredible.
Yeah, we do a good job. I'm very lucky, man. It's we've got a great lucky wrong side. We've got a great team, and I'm surrounded by really hardworking and talented hospitality professionals that take their job seriously, and they want to do a good job. We hold each other to a high standard, and we love each other, man. That's one thing about Lucky Shuck is it really is a family. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes I want to light them on fire and throw them to a pit of cobras, but I love them.
I mean, shout out to Dave Lanier because he's your brother, and you also want to light that dude on fire every once in a while.
Yeah.
So that just shows you families care, and also families want to maybe light each other on fire from time to time. What is the most rewarding thing about working at Lucky, though?
It's tough. I don't know, man. I think probably one of the reasons I love bartending would be the same reason is you have an opportunity to make someone's day every day, and one of the things that was cool about being I'm still a bartender in my heart, you know what I mean? But when you see someone that comes in, maybe it's 9:45 or 10:45, we're about to close, but you can tell they've had a bad day. Maybe they just got off a flight and blah, blah, blah. And you have an opportunity to just buy somebody like a $4 beer and it makes them happy. It's a good feeling, and especially when you take it a step further and it's like they're dining there and you do all the steps of service and you do everything right. And they had a great time. You're like, man, this is the best service I've ever had. It feels good. It feels good to know that you did a great job, especially when everyone does their job and food comes out on time and everything's cleared. And, because you know what it's like to go to a restaurant and have bad service. And when you give exceptional service, it feels really good.
We talk about that constantly. It can make such a difference in someone's life. And for the most part, when someone's going to a bar, they're looking for a good time, B, an escape, or a little of both.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And if you can provide that, especially if it comes down to the wire where it's like someone else would have been like, nah, sorry, like we're closing, go away. Yep. Like that sucks. They're already probably going through it. And then it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I got denied when all I wanted was a nice cold beverage.
First $100 tip I ever got, I remember I was like 22 years old and it was on Christmas.
$100 tip? Good for you.
It was like Christmas Eve. I was like 22 years old. And it was a guy walking in like 2 minutes before we closed. And I'm like, hey, we're closed. He's like, oh, man, I thought you closed at 11. I'm like, brother, it's 10:58, whatever time it is. And he's like, man, I've just had a really shitty day. I just want a beer and I'll get out of your hair. And I'm like, all right, yeah, whatever. And I'm annoyed, right? He's sitting there, he's quiet. I cash him out, drinks his beer. He's like, thank you very much. And he's like, why? I'm like, I just flew down here. My brother just passed away, like super choked up. I'm like, dude, that's tough, right? So I'm like, hey, man, you know what? Beer's on me. He's like, seriously? I'm like, yeah, you know what? Here's another one. He's like, are you serious right now? I'm like, yeah, dude. I know that's probably really tough, We'll hang out for a few minutes. Not a big deal. He just hands me a $100 bill. I didn't do it for that.
Yeah.
But that's when I was like, I'm only 22. I'm young. I'm like, just being nice to somebody. And you realize that just being nice to somebody, which is really easy to do.
Yeah.
To be nice to somebody.
Kindness is free.
Yeah, man.
And I would say, you also don't have to be a dick. You don't have to comment negativity. You could just let it slide.
Yeah.
Just let it move past. But that's one of the reasons why you're my best friend, dude. You're just a great dude. You didn't do it because how would you have known this guy's about to drop $100 on you? You could have easily been like, hey, even being a good dude, you could be like, hey, it's 2 minutes till we're closed. Like, I am very sorry. If you would have came maybe 5 minutes earlier, we could have worked it out. But it's like, you got 120 seconds left before we close.
I gotta be, right? I live 5 minutes away.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just so cool to watch you progress, though, Nick, from where you were to where you are right now. And you say you don't bartend as much because you're the top dog now. Do you just ever want to just jump behind the bar and just every day? You ever just want to tell, hey, don't come in today? You've been working hard this week. We're overstaffed, and I'm going to get behind the bar and slay some drinks.
Man, I actually enjoy it, and my staff makes fun of me. You've seen Super Troopers. I'll always look up and always see if I see a bunch of ticks, I go, Car Ramrod? And they just like, at first they don't get it. I'm like, watch the movie, say Car Ramrod. Now I know. It'll be like, Friday night and you're the other manager and I'm talking and someone will come up to me and be like, hey, Clay said Car Ramrod. And I'll be like, and I run and I go back and he's like got a freaking line of tickets around his neck and I start banging it out with him. And yeah, no, I do every day. But my favorite thing is like when they're weeded and it's honestly not a big deal, but it's like a 2 minute me just getting them out of the weeds and they work the bar top. And then I take a lap. I'm like, you guys are good? And they're like, yeah. I'll pat them on the back. They're like, Daddy still got it. And they just like roll their eyes at me.
How many times did you ask if every time your bartenders, which doesn't happen often, they're in the weeds, you can have Stone Cold Steve Austin's music play?
Oh my God!
Just a glass break, and then you just come out from the back, and it's like, oh damn, it's about to happen.
I'd retire.
Speaking of wrestlers, who do you think was the most badass wrestler of our generation? Stone Cold, without a doubt.
Yeah, in my opinion, it's either. Well, there's a few. It's him, in no particular order. The Undertaker, The Rock. Mm-hmm. Macho Man Randy Savage from WCW.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Step into a Slim Jim.
That's messed up. Most people know him from the Slim Jim commercials. Like, younger generations know him as the Slim Jim dude. It's like, how dare you besmirch the name of Macho Man Randy
Austin
Savage.
was like the first guy to.
Yeah.
And then he encompassed like the 90s era attitude era of like us being like, F the man. I'm doing what I want. This is for me.
You realize as you get older how many of the wrestlers you hated at first you really like. Like, I didn't really like The Rock at all
because I like Stone Cold.
Yeah, so it was Stone Cold or nothing.
Yeah.
And then hated Vince McMahon. I saw that Vince McMahon documentary on Netflix not too long ago. I mean, he got himself into some hot water. But other than that, like seeing the rise of someone to that success.
Insane.
And take no shit and then like putting himself and his family just in the crosshairs of everything and making some absolutely absurd storylines that it's like, dude.
And The Rock, too, to watch him from like, what's his company called? $7 Production?
Yeah.
After CFL, he had nothing and then he started wrestling and rose to the top and then decided, you know what, I'm going to be like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Now I'm going to go be a movie star. Rose to the top again.
That's somebody who was destined for some kind of greatness. Yeah. There are certain people you see, it's like no matter what they would have done, they would have been one of the best at it because he was a great football player, wasn't he? Wasn't he awesome at Miami?
Yeah.
And then he blew out his knee.
Correct.
And he had to pivot, so... So when it comes to making drinks, though, Nick, I've seen you make some absolutely creative, interesting, and most importantly, delicious drinks. What goes through your head when you're coming up with a drink?
I got to give credit to my mother. My mom is Cuban. I'm Cuban. And I grew up in the kitchen. And what I learned was you find the best bartenders around. Every single one of them has the same thing in common. They can all cook. What I mean by that is it's all about balancing flavors. The same way a chef balances fat, salt, acid, whatever in a dish, you're doing the same thing in a cocktail. If you want something sweet, you add more sugar than acid. If you want something tart, you add more acid than sugar, right? You're literally just balancing ratios, right? Spirit, acid, bitter, and sugar. Those are the basic ingredients you're going to try and balance. But, when you take it a step further, like a margarita, for instance, is 3 ingredients. A classic Tommy's Marg is agave nectar, lime juice, tequila. If you have equal parts, it'll be a balanced cocktail. But do you think a margarita is balanced or sweet or tart?
You probably want a balance, right?
Yeah.
But it's probably more on the sweet side.
I would say it's more on the tart side.
Really?
Yeah. Right? So if you put a little, you failed. No, I'm just kidding.
I was going to make a tart joke, but that's not going to go over well. So continue.
No. So the point is you want to add a little bit more lime juice than you would have agave nectar in with your tequila, which would give it a little bit more of the tart flavor. Now, if you want it on the sweeter side, you add a little more sugar. That's literally all you're doing. But when you take it a step further is when you take those ingredients and you make them complicated. Like we do a spiced agave nectar at Lucky Shuck. Agave is very simple, right? Mm-hmm. What we do is we add cinnamon, clove, cardamom, nutmeg, allspice to it, cook it down so that when you taste it, you're getting all these baking spices. It's not like cayenne pepper spice. It's like what you would taste in breads or stuff like that, baking spice. You can do that. You can also infuse your liquors with fruit and get fruit flavor without adding a bunch of sugary stuff. And so when you really take it to the next level is when you have all these ingredients that maybe it's a 3-ingredient cocktail, but each one of those 3 ingredients might be 6 ingredients. One of our cocktails in particular, but some of them take like 3 days to make just because we're cryovacuuming things and extracting sugar and making syrups that take 2 days, or something called velvet falernum, which my bar chef Tiffany loves to make. She hates it.
I figured. I picked up what you were putting down there,
It
Raj.
takes like 2 days. She has to zest a bunch of limes. I mean, it's a pain in the butt. But we do these things to get exceptional cocktails.
Yeah. So what was your favorite? I know it's going to be tough. You're going to say it's like, picking what one of my kids is my favorite. But what is your favorite cocktail you've ever created?
That I've ever created? Yeah. Oh, my favorite. There's a few, but I had this one at the Cooper I made called El Pastelito, which was like a guava
that sounds cool
mojito. It was really good with a dark rum float on top. That was really nice. It was just an easy one to drink. The Feeling Misunderstood I liked because it was my first competition winner, which made me feel really like I was moving into the right direction. You know, like I felt validated in what I was doing. But one that we have at Lucky Shuck right now, which is actually coming off the menu soon, we're doing a reprint. The Chimera number 5, I created for a competition that I lost. And it is actually my most complicated cocktail I've ever made. It's a zombie riff. A zombie is a tiki cocktail. And this is one of the ones that has the, velvet falernum, the spiced agave. Everything in it takes 2 to 3 days to make.
Oh,
it's
shit.
Really a pain. It's really a pain.
But
it's a really pretty
dude.
and really
it's a
delicious
journey.
cocktail.
That's a journey drink.
It's a pain in the butt to make. Like, I feel bad sometimes, but it's delicious.
So how many competitions have you won? That you've entered? 2? Okay, 2. And then you lost that one that was rigged because, the judges must have been onto something. And what's your process going into these competitions? Because you've thrown on some competitions yourself, and there's different categories, there's different criteria. Like, what is your strategy going in?
Kind of what we just talked about. I try to make everything layered like an onion, like ogres, like Shrek, right? So if I'm making a Paloma, for instance, which is a simple cocktail, it's 4 ingredients. I'm taking all 4 of those ingredients and making them, each ingredient is like 6 ingredients. I'm adding the spiced agave, or I'm infusing the tequila, or whatever it may be. But each component is incredibly detailed, incredibly difficult and structured. Reason being, when they hear Paloma, they're like, oh, whatever, this guy's made a Paloma. But I could say, no, actually, I did my version of a Paloma that has this spiced agave nectar and this and that, and explain it. Having knowledge and explaining it, especially to judges, is a huge thing.
Yeah.
And the other part is technique. You'll watch bartenders, and a lot of judges don't necessarily do this. I just assume they do. But I build the cocktail correctly always. I start with my cheapest ingredients always. I wash out my viscous ones always. I go to the secondary spirit, then the primary spirit, meaning secondary spirit in like a Cosmopolitan would be triple sec.
Yeah.
Whereas the primary spirit would be vodka, right? But if you start with your cheap ingredients, do you know why you would do that?
Because I'm going to fail another question. You start with your cheap ingredients. Let me try to think of this. Because you want your more expensive to pop and be on the top? Or?
So think about it like this, right? Your most expensive ingredient in a cocktail is booze. It's okay. So if I start with vodka, and then I add triple sec, oh shoot, did I put cranberry juice in there? I don't remember. I got to dump it.
Yeah.
So I just wasted vodka. But if I start with cranberry juice and then go to lime juice,
and then you
forgot.
Did I
put that in there? I'm dumping
it. We're fine. It's not the end of the world.
So I do that so the judges can see that I'm prioritizing my bill.
Okay.
Now, do they mostly look at that? Probably not. But in my mind, I'm going to do everything the best I can possibly do it. So not only do I have a spectacular cocktail that I've made 70 of that were freaking terrible to get this one that's perfect, I have every ingredient in my head. I can explain it. I have a story for it, why I picked it. I have a name for it. Why did I pick that name? How does it all tie together? And then on top of that, they know me, they hear me say it, but they're watching me. They go, man, that guy's got great technique. He's building it correctly. He's, pouring the spirits towards us so we can see it. Every single thing you do has to be perfect. Not good, not great, perfect.
And that's key. You mentioned when it comes to explaining to the judges exactly what you're doing in the process, because they're not going to be as well-versed as you when it comes to making drinks. I know this for a fact because I've been a guest judge before. And I feel like, damn it, I don't ever want to ruin someone's time when they put so much effort and work into this drink. And it's like, they're probably doing things I'm not even noticing. And it's like, wow, that's next level kind of thing. And then I feel like when it comes to judges, there should be a way, maybe even have more judges, because far too often I felt like I was almost I liked the last drink I had. Didn't matter what it was, but it's so hard to think about, like, okay, did I really like this drink more than that last drink when they're very similar in, consistency and also taste. It's the toughest thing to judge.
Like
and it's flawed because we're humans,
The competition you did at Lucky, I mean, you had bangers, man. Those were all the best of the best.
Oh my goodness.
I would not want to be a judge in that competition.
That was one of the more difficult competitions. My buddy JP, who works at Salute, the head bartender at Salute. I mean, he's a phenomenal bartender.
Was fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. I couldn't tell you which one was his, though. That's what it just got lost in the sauce. Every single person there was fantastic in their own right. You want to talk about the heavy hitters? You knocked that competition out of the fucking gate, dude. I mean, you had the best of the best, and it was so cool to be part of that first one.
It was a lot of fun, man. And it kind of put Palm Beach County back on the map here for bartenders. I wanted the bartenders to get some credit for the drinks they make instead of like Lucky Shuck getting credit. It's like, no, Joel gets credit. Parched Pig, no, it's Zach. Salute, no, it's JP. Brick and Barrel, no, it's people. I wanted the bartenders to have credit for their cocktails.
Yeah, and shout out to Joel too. I mean, Joel did his thing.
Oh, yeah.
He brought his A game.
I mean, they all did, man. All of them. Every single one. That's what I'm saying. Like, all the cocktails I tried, I was like, I'm glad I'm not judging this.
Yeah. I got sauced up quick, too. I was like, whoa. I was like, I didn't know we were going to be judging this many drinks. Yeah.
I think that's what really one of the important keys, too, is like when I did the Brick and Barrel one, I went in there with the mentality that anyone can win.
Yeah.
I'm not the top dog. I might lose. I'm probably going to lose. Odds are I'm going to lose. But you go in there and you say, hey, I got to do everything perfect, right? So I made everything as in-depth as I could. You know, I made sure I could explain things. I had stories for all my cocktails. Even the one I had to come up with on the fly was perfect because I was trying to make this cocktail, and I made it like, I said 39 times because that's what I named it, but a bunch of times, and it didn't work. And then when I drew my mystery box, the ingredients were perfect for what I was going for.
Wow.
And
like,
I mean, I had to change some things up.
yeah.
It was kind of like a Hemingway daiquiri riff, but Hemingway was the company, Papa's Pilar and Hemingway Rye were sponsoring it, so it worked out. So I called it 39 times because when Hemingway wrote A Farewell to Arms, he ripped out the last page 39 times before he got it right. And I kept dumping this cocktail, getting so frustrated, and said, F it, and then drew my mystery box, and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get it right. And it was a freaking delicious cocktail, and then I got the goosebumps. So I named it 39 times.
Dude, that's the first Ernest Hemingway shout out we've had on Under Pressure. Yeah. Congratulations, Brosh. Right? You did it. So not only are you just an exceptional person in general, people don't know this about you. I mean, some people might know this, but you're also building a dynasty on the diamond in girls softball.
I should have worn my ring. Yeah.
You should have wore multiple rings because you are now what? The 3-time
so we
defending champion.
Yeah, we won soccer and then went straight into softball, and we've won 3 in a row in softball.
Dude. Impressive. And shout out to my niece, Mac Attack, Mackenzie. She's come a long way on the field as well, right? I mean, she is quite the player now.
Yeah. Well, it's so funny because it was, I'm an aggressive person, and especially in sports, I was always aggressive, and she's not. And it took me a little while to make peace with that and be like, hey, this is your kid. Let her do her thing.
Yeah. But there's a couple ways to get to 4. 1 + 3 is 4. 2 + 2 is 4.
Exactly. And she's very social, but she's instinctive on the field. So she kind of has snapped into that. Like as soon as that happens at third, she's a defender, man. And she picked off 2 girls at the bag. My catcher is a freaking gangster. So let's start there. I mean, she hosed it down, but Mackenzie was in the right position.
Yeah.
Made the catch, made the play at the bag twice. And the only team in the league to do that, because no one does that at this age because the overthrows.
Of course. That's all there is overthrows.
Yeah, man.
And how tough was it for you to dial back that competitive nature that you just naturally have? Because you and I have played kickball. You know how many times I got thrown out of the kickball league?
Let's not.
It's fucking crazy. From cursing to the pink team. I hope the pink team watches this episode. I still hate you guys.
Shout out, Andy.
Yeah, it's just crazy that it's tough to turn it off. It's just ingrained in us. So for you to not be, I'm not saying you'd ever be a monster, but that guy, like that coach, everyone's like, yo, you heard about that Lanier's team?
What I got to was you got to make it fun. If you don't make it fun, they'll never come back.
Yeah.
So first you make it fun. And then what I realized was, people overcomplicate things. They're kids, right? So you can't be teaching them how to run triple plays and, do X, Y, and Z. What I started working on was just simple drills. I have a box drill where I set up 4 cones in like a rectangle. I have them sprint forward to one cone, then shuffle to the other one, then sprint backward, then shuffle left and right to the other one. So that they're learning how to charge the ball, how to backtrack a ball when they're going for pop flies, how to shuffle for a grounder. You're literally doing all of these things in one drill. It's just getting them footwork. I don't tell them what they're doing. I just have them do that, right? Then I have first base, second place, third base, and I'll just hit grounders. I'll say, all right, no runners are on. Where's the play? They say first base. So then I'll hit a grounder to second. And so the second baseman will throw it to first. Now I say, all right, there's a runner on first. No outs. Where's the play? They say first or second. Okay. So I'll hit a grounder to second again. They'll tag second. Then
try to turn 2, yeah.
Sometimes, but I'll do individual. I'll do second base, shortstop, third base, all with 1 out, no outs, so that they know where to be in position and where to make the play. I tell them a lot of times to just hold the ball. If the runner's almost at first, don't make the throw. It's not worth it because if you overthrow, they get it back. And a lot of these coaches are doing all these crazy drills, and really all you got to teach them is how to hit the ball.
Yeah.
Where to be in the field, and honestly, man, it's gangbusters.
Around that age too, it's all about fun. If you can nail down the fundamentals, you're gonna have such an advantage over every other team.
That's it.
Like if you think the game at a higher level than your team, you already got the biggest advantage. It doesn't matter how talented that other team could be.
And it's got to be fun, but you also got to make them competitive. It's okay to be tough on them and be competitive, but you have to balance the fun with that because you want them to be competitive. You want them to learn the lessons that'll carry them in life. Most of what I'm doing here is not teaching them to play softball. It's teaching them to deal with life, and you're teaching them life lessons. They're going to fail, and they get really upset. And you know what I tell them? I say, hey, do you watch baseball? They're like, yeah, I watch baseball with my dad. Oh, what's your favorite team? I like the New York Mets. Oh, that sucks. Anyway, so I'll say,
Mets are good this year so far, Braj.
I'll say, do you know that in Major League Baseball, if you strike out 70% of the time, you go to the Hall of Fame?
Yeah.
If you fail 70% of the time, you go to the Hall of Fame. We'll
make sure you say at least they get hits 3 out of every 10 at bats.
Well, no.
If you strike out 70% of the time and you're still getting out.
Yeah, but no, you want them to hear that.
You're going to the minors.
Then they accept that failure is okay.
Yeah.
You get up and you try again. And then they'll go in and they'll freaking smash one. And you're like, see? Yeah, man.
It's like, whatchamacallit, Bruce Wayne's dad said, why do we fall, Bruce? So we can pick ourselves back
That's
up.
right, man. Just learn to deal with it. That's a life lesson.
And you and I are some of the bigger movie buffs of all time. And I feel this dude is finally getting his just deserve. And it's kind of a shame because he had a pass for it to happen. Val Kilmer.
Oh, yeah, man.
Tell me that him as Doc Holliday isn't one of the greatest roles, and he should have won an Oscar. The more I see clips and the more I rewatch Tombstone,
It's phenomenal.
How did that not happen? How did he not get an Oscar for that? It's such a great movie. He steals that movie.
Absolutely.
He is that movie.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm your Huckleberry.
Yeah. And Johnny Ringo. I had
Johnny
a Johnny Ringo on the show, not the same
That's
Johnny
right,
Ringo.
I know him too.
I don't know. You know what? I don't know if Johnny Ringo's real name is Johnny Ringo. So I wonder where he got that from. If he got it from, I doubt he got it from Tombstone. He's a little older
I used to
than
work
the
with his
movie.
daughter. You know his daughter.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was always at the Pirates Well too. He's a super nice guy, man. He's a funny guy too.
So what would you say is your favorite Val Kilmer movie? If you had to rank some Val Kilmer movies.
There's 3.
Okay.
That one, The Ghost in the Darkness, super underrated, unknown movie.
That is one of my favorite movies.
I love that movie.
Ever.
Love that movie.
And the fact that it's based off a true story. So if you guys don't know, it was they were building a railroad in Africa, and there was these 2 male lions that were just decimating all the railroad workers. That is a tongue twister. So they had this guy come out and this hunter come out to try to take out the lions.
Well, first it was him. The engineer building the train was a hunter, and he was hunting the lions, but he couldn't handle it. And then they brought in Michael Douglas, the big guns.
That movie,
it's great.
I kind of want to watch that now later.
It's
okay,
good.
so you have that. So what did you say? You said Tombstone, Ghost in the Darkness.
Top Gun, buddy.
Top Gun, of course.
Come on, man.
How did I
Iceman?
forget Top Gun?
Dude, he's so good in that movie. He's just such a prick in that movie.
Yeah. And then I loved how he was in Top Gun Maverick as well.
Yeah, I loved it.
They made it,
Full circle.
where it made sense. I think the second one's better than the first. Top Gun Maverick
I won't say it's better.
Really?
But
because it just
tough.
holds a place in your heart for you?
Yeah, man. But it was excellent. It was excellent.
We saw that together.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the preview. Yeah. That was so cool.
Yeah, with Paul and Kenny, I think.
Paul and Kenny were both there. Yeah, I think they were. So this is going to be one of the most difficult questions I think you ever have to answer. And it's about movie. Don't worry. Don't put you in that kind of spot. Han Solo, Indiana Jones.
Why would you do this to me?
1v1. Who is winning? Who?
I don't know. I don't.
You don't know? I mean, you could break it down because I know you have levels to this. Just like one of your drinks, there's levels to this question.
I think if it comes down to a fist fight, probably Indiana Jones because I've seen him knock out so many Nazis. But gunfight, I mean, Han Solo is fast, doesn't miss, over his dead body. I hate you for this.
I know.
Those are like my 2 childhood heroes. I refuse.
You refuse?
I remove myself from this.
You're pleading the fifth.
I plead the fifth.
So what's your favorite movie though of all time? Is it? Can't say Top Gun.
I don't have an.
It's tough, right?
I cheat. I have a movie that is one of my favorite movies of all times, and I'll say it's my favorite only because I think it's like everyone can love it, and if you don't love it, you're probably a terrible human being. I think Forrest Gump is up there with my favorite movies of all time.
Dude,
you have action,
Forrest
you have
Gump
drama,
is so
you have
great.
romance, you have comedy, you have sports, you have one of the best soundtracks ever. You have history. And it's a movie about kindness. I mean, really, he paints a picture of just being a kind person.
Do you know every single picture that he takes with anybody famous, his eyes are closed? Go back and watch that movie. Every single picture he takes with somebody, even when he was doing the advertisement for the ping pong. Yeah, his eyes are closed. Every single picture. And you want to take it to a whole crazier route? The 2 biggest movie villains of all time. Are you ready for this? Jenny in Forrest Gump and Rose from Titanic.
Oh, Oof.
Are you ready for this? I could break it down for you because, of course, Jenny uses Forrest and abuses Forrest the entire freaking time.
Just dumps a kid on him.
All this dude did was love her, love her, love her. Had so many chances for her to go with him to give herself a better life. But no, she wanted to party. She wanted to be with the Black Panthers and stuff like that. And then she ends up getting AIDS. That's when she calls Forrest back up. Yeah. When Forrest is a billionaire, and then little Forrest needs a dad. Like, how dare you, dude? You're gonna bring this man back to his life. And then when we get on the Titanic with Rose, she was engaged to a guy that was kind of douchey, but he gave her the biggest fucking piece of jewelry ever. The heart of the sea. That's not good enough for her. No. She cheats with some hood rat from the slums. You know what I'm saying? Jack Dawson, because he said a couple of cute little things and paint me like one of your French women. And then on top of it, she still can't even fucking share that door with him.
There was room for him on the door.
100% there was room for him on the door. Like, Rose is a villain. And then when they were like, hey, check it out. Look at all this stuff. Was this you? Was this you? Where's the diamond? When she's an old lady, she gets one last laugh and chucks that shit into the sea. How dare you? I wish someone would have pushed her off that boat.
Would have been nice. Yeah, Rose is definitely... Jenny for sure, though. She was... Jenny's just awful.
Jenny is one of the most awful human beings ever.
But that's one of the most quotable movies, too, for Scott, man. There's some good lines in that one.
I like what... It's not... I don't like it, but when he just looks at Little Forrest and he goes, is he smart? And just sees, like, his facial expressions like, yo, that hits, bro.
Yeah.
Because that's all he cared about.
Yep.
And then when Lieutenant Dan is getting married because they were in the Vietnam War together, and then Lieutenant Dan is marrying an Asian woman, and then Forrest comes just, Lieutenant Dan. He's like,
I love when they're in the hospital. He's like, ice cream, Lieutenant Dan, ice cream, and Dan just takes it and puts it in his bedpan and just like shut up, bro.
There's a couple movies now, Nick, that I want to watch after this, but let's focus on the task at hand. It's like, ooh, squirrel, and then all of a sudden we get sidetracked. But what do you have coming up at Lucky Shuck? What kind of events?
We got quite a few things. We have clearly Mother's Day coming up, and then our summer promotions start this summer. We're going to do Martini and Muscle Mondays, so it'll be any martini in house is half off, and then we'll have like a muscle of the day, or the muscles that we have on the menu, and then whatever chef comes up with as a special.
I thought you were going to have your shirt popped off.
Yeah, I'll be shirtless for that.
I figured it was going to be the muscles of the day.
Exactly.
Yeah, of course.
Makes sense. And pouring martinis all over myself. Tuesdays we'll have happy hour all day throughout the whole restaurant. Wednesday will be our always famous dollar wings, dollar oysters every Wednesday, which is a zoo. It gets crazy busy all summer. Thursday, we're going to be doing ladies' night, which is going to be ladies have happy hour all night. And weekends, we won't do anything. I'll have the cocktail competition again in June. We haven't set a date for that. We're actually working on that now.
Can I throw my hat in as a judge?
Your grandfather.
Thank you so much.
And then we're working on doing some other events and stuff. I'll keep you posted for sure.
Cool. I mean, speaking of the events that you guys do out there, the oyster eating competition.
That will happen in August as well.
I really blame whoever made National Oyster Day in August, because that would be such a better event if it was like,
January.
Cool day in December or January. Yeah. I remember when you first asked me to do that. There's video out there, folks, of you can see of me just devouring oysters. I was like, yeah, I could probably eat some. I think I might have ate like 19, 20 that first year. And I was like, this is not for me. The second year, when you asked me back, I think I got like 45 or 50 in 90 seconds. And then when I tell people that, they're like, damn, you must have won. I go, not even close.
It's disgusting the amount of oysters people... I mean, I'm not trying to knock the event. It's a cool event, but it's like I watch and I'm like, man, how do you eat oysters? I love oysters.
I love oysters.
I'm good for a dozen.
I'll be back. I'll be back if you want me back in that. It's like I said, I just have to do it for the fun. Do it for the love of oysters. Yeah, you would think I wouldn't like oysters after stuffing my face with them. And as you said, 12 is a good normal amount that you should eat. Yeah. But just woofing it, and then the heat on top of it, and then you see some people just go at it. I think the guy who won last year had like
120 or 40 or 50 or something ridiculous, man. It was
like you're woofing down like 3 or 4 oysters at a time. Ugh. Thank goodness you can't really choke on that, but there's a first for everything. Yeah. I remember one year, Franny, shout out to Franny from Real Radio and the Gator and stuff like that. She found a way to cheat, and she still didn't win. She took all her oysters out and put them in a cup.
Chugged them.
We had to make rules for someone like that. So Franny, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying, but at the same time, cut that nonsense out. So, Braz, I'm just so excited for so many things you have coming up. And did you guys open up the locations on the Treasure Coast yet?
Not yet, no. So
Okay,
we have,
talk about that.
We're building Lucky Shuck 2 right now in Vero. It's on the St. Lucie River. It's Ryle Marina. Big project. We designed all that. It's getting built now. Hopefully within 2 years. I think we optimistically are looking at like a year, but there's always construction delays in Florida, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, it's going to be a big project. There's not much up there yet. We're kind of doing the if you build it, they will come.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of money up there and people don't really have a nice place to go. Not that there's not nice restaurants up there. That's not what I'm saying. But they don't have like a nice...
Clip that.
Yeah, cut that. We got to cut that out. A nice oyster bar on the water that is beautiful and has great cocktails and great food. And, so we're hoping to be the pioneers there for that.
And did you just have a constant influx of people from North to come down to Lucky and like, hey, we would love you to have a location up there? And it was one of those things that's like, all right, after, 150 people said this, it's like, let's look into this.
There's a lot of people that drive, a lot. There's that. And there's also just, so for the Lessings Group, which is my company out of New York, this is going to be their flagship in Florida. That it's a proven concept. It's affordable. You can go. The thing about Lucky Shuck, I love to say, is you can dress us up or you can dress us down. You can go in there for happy hour.
I really like
and not
that.
spend a lot of money and have a great time, or you can go in for dinner and pop champagne and eat oysters and spend a bunch of money. Whatever you want to do, everyone's welcome. We got food for everybody, But you can be super casual, or you can come in and have a nice dinner. So it's a nice concept where everyone can come. So the idea is they want that to be the flagship in the state of Florida. We want it to try and always be on the water. I know what's a terrible thing, is that I don't think we'll ever find a location as beautiful as the one we have. I mean, we really take for granted every day I walk out there and I'm looking at the lighthouse and the inlet, and it's absolutely freaking beautiful, and it does not get old.
You'd have to create an entire place from scratch to even come close to that. As you said, I mean, it is one of the most pristine locations. Yeah. The lighthouse, the water right there, you can't beat it.
You can't.
How'd they even get that location?
Luck, Charlie Modica.
Charlie Modica. Very lucky once again. We didn't even drop name drop Joe Namath.
My boss, Joe Willie.
One of the coolest
The only
dudes.
New York Jet that I like.
He is, right?
Yeah. He's the man, dude. He's easy to work for. He's super nice. Always says hi to everybody. Always shakes hands. He's always smiling. And when he turns it on, man, he's still got it. I mean,
yeah, he's got that charm.
Yeah, man.
For you kids out there, he was the inventor of Riz.
Yeah, straight up.
He invented Riz. I mean, dude had fur coat. Like, just a baller, bro. Like, could you imagine, like, a badass winning that Super Bowl with the
like
Jets?
lingerie commercials? Like, all right, bro, we get it.
To go back in time and just hang out with him for a weekend in the heyday, there's a lot of, you know what? If I had to pick a time to go back, there's probably a couple I could think off the top of my head. That'd be up there, though. I'd literally just to be like hanging out with Joe Namath for a weekend in the heyday. Like right after that Super Bowl win,
he was the king.
You could do no wrong. You get piggybacks in the street if you want. Like that's. Shout out to Joe.
Shout out to Joe. Joe Namath.
Yeah,
Thanks for being a good boss.
And he is one of the nicest people ever.
His whole family too. My sister went to school with one of his daughters, and Olivia, the younger one. But Jess is here, and Jess is there all the time. She's got kids.
I think I've met Jess.
Yeah, you've met Jess. But it's nice to see us all grown up and having families, and we're still the same people.
Yeah, that's key, man.
Yeah,
not to change when you've already perfected being a pretty decent person to begin with.
Yeah.
So Nick, how can everybody get in contact with you, my good sir?
I'm on Facebook, Nick James, not Nick Lanier. I'm Nick James, bitch. No. Shout out to Dave Chappelle Show, man. I'm on Instagram, Lucky Lanier. Or is it Lucky Lanier 88? I don't even know.
I think it is. It's funny, every time I tag you in my post, which I do often, I do it every day because I love you and, you share my stuff, so I appreciate it. I'm like, what is it again? And then it's like, I just put the L there. I'm like, there he is. There he is. I think it's Lucky Lanier, though.
Yeah. Or come on into Lucky Shuck. Say hi. Say I heard you on the Under Pressure podcast. Make a friend.
There you go. So that is another episode of Under Pressure, one of my favorites, and not just because you're my bestie, bro. That was fun. So you can check out Under Pressure everywhere you get your podcast. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the iHeartRadio app. Tell your friends. Go into Lucky Shuck. See this man, the myth, the legend known as Nick Lanier, and we will talk to you guys soon.